Second interview with Jeff Abel. In this one, we are going to talk strictly about the winged package at Oswego Speedway. I hope you caught the one we did before where we talked strictly on ISMA. Of course, he was a big winner there last year. Finished tied for third in the points last year. Oswego did not make it to victory lanes. His only win was actually in the winged package. Of course, the racing season starts the 25th. We ran this right before that so you could find out what's going on. The engine in the car just got back from being dynoed. He just took the oil out, the special oil that everybody uses when they break in an engine, so he'll have to fill that up. We still got to fill it up, right?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so how much does it take? Just curious.
The tank itself, because you're running a dry sump, is about 8 or 9 quarts, and then total with the system you usually have 10 or 11 quarts somewhere in there.
All right. And I knew that. I wanted to make sure you guys knew. I just didn't know how much they would put in there. But the oil cooler is something, by the way, if you're a big block modified fan, they run those in there too. So how was last year? I mean, it looked good in the points, but I'm sure we wanted another check for our wall, didn't we?
Yeah, it would have been nice. The year prior, I think we were a little more consistent. This year, we were just off. So that we spent the winter trying to put our finger on, what was good, what was bad. And then try to come out a little bit stronger with that. But overall, it was a mediocre season. Definitely wanted some better results, but just trying to find the consistency back. So that's what we'll work on to start the season.
Well, what was the car doing that you didn't like?
About any driver's nightmares, that tight through the middle, very slow through the middle, and especially compared to the guys and gals you're trying to race with and be competitive with, they definitely had more speed through that point than trying to get off the corner and trying to make up that speed and everything. So that's something I've kind of fought with the car for a good while. So it's something we're trying to, revamp and just refocus on and everything and try to get that part of it set. So and then go along with that, you're changing everything under the sun to try to fix that, and you screw something else up with it. So just try to make those changes and do it right this year, hopefully.
So is it a throttle push almost?
Sort of. It's the way this car's been. It's a off throttle push, then throttle loose, and yeah, and then that tight to loose feeling that you don't want, especially in a super modify. That's the worst type of handling you could have with it. So try to get away from that a little bit, but that's what we'll work on.
Is it better or worse at one end of the track than the other?
No, pretty similar. Either way, and Oswego does have two very different. Yeah. 1 and 2 is very different from 3 and 4, but yeah, pretty much similar around. And it's even something we fought in the ISMA shows and stuff. By with that big wing on, you can really mask a lot of those issues. And Oswego, there's just no way around it. If you have that problem, it's going to show up there. So that's why it's the consistency just hasn't been there.
So it's okay in?
Yeah, usually not a big problem in, but anywhere if you can't get through that middle of the corner and roll the same as those other cars, it's going to affect you in. It's going to affect you out. You just you can't drive it in as hard. Everything. So
and open it at the bottom on the way out too.
Exactly.
So it's the worst of both things.
Oh yeah.
So without telling me too much, what have we done to try to fix that?
There's a lot of it. Most of it is, for me personally, just trying to learn and revamp my thinking and the way that I approach the car. I spent more time this off-season researching, going through stuff, asking questions, anybody that knows anything about anything, just asking whatever I can about it, and then trying to approach the car a little bit differently and what we really focus on and stuff. And you gotta look at everything, and that's why we have the car on our setup table and everything for that. It's just steer, everything else, look for traction. So just a whole rethinking of it, basically.
Okay. Is there a lot of moving weight around too?
A little bit. I mean, that's important when you first build the car, and I think we mostly have that correct. A lot of what we focus on is, obviously with the aero changes this year, that's a big change. The tracks change because of Dirt Week and everything and how it's cleaned, everything like that. So
it's just different the first few weeks than July.
Yeah,
right?
It changes all the way through the season. So that's part of it, is trying to stay on top of that, and that's something we've got to get a little bit better with. And so just mostly that stuff, and trying to have a formula for the entire season right from the get-go, rather than trying to just shoot from the hip and figure it out as the season goes along. 3
changes, you just talked about it, so we might as well go there. The first was the wicker bill at the back of the wing, and if you're a sprint car fan, basically it's a little piece that would stick up and basically help the wing grab, right, and get you a lot more downforce. The angle on the wing changed from 14 degrees to 9, so it's a little flatter than it was before, and also the right front tire is now the left rear. Look for the Mike Silliman piece. So I guess let's start with the tire. What is that going to do? Yeah, it's definitely a higher grip tire. It's a bigger tire, a little more stagger in the front. Taller and wider or shorter?
A little bit taller, and it's a little bit wider.
Okay.
The height is the biggest difference with it. So a little bit of front end stagger difference. A lot of the guys with independent suspension, stuff like that, you're going to have to pay attention to geometry in the front and everything. Should stick the front ends a little bit more, which tends to loosen the cars up. And then on top of it, we have an aero change in the back, which will also loosen the cars up. So the point of all that is to hopefully get everybody, you know, a little bit slowed down, maybe a little more ill handling, and make the racing a little bit more side by side too.
Yeah, somebody told me too that with the bigger right front tire, it should help you on the entrance a little bit, right?
Yeah, it definitely could there, which is good because you don't need cars, you know, getting loose at that point or anything. It's middle of the corner enough to get the, you know, to get racing better and everything is where it should really help. So
okay, the wicker bill, how big is that? Because I know, you know, like I said, with sprint cars and even other forms of racing, taking or changing that wicker bill can make a huge difference in the car.
Yeah, it's a massive change with it. I don't know the numbers right off. I know the target when we had meetings with all the drivers and teams before the season was to try to get maybe 20 to 25% downforce change there less. From what I understand, it's probably somewhere in that range with it. We weren't a part of any wind tunnel testing or anything, but I know there was some testing done.
I did hear that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, exactly. So hopefully that's the target somewhere in that area, but that's a huge change for it too. So, hopefully it shows up on the track. It's the same for everybody, but when you start getting down to that point, maybe the cars aren't so locked down and everything, and you won't have those runaway cars from the pole just taking off and winning, and that's kind of what we're looking for, hopefully.
Okay, the wing angle itself, how big is that when you put both of those together, that and the wicker bill?
Yeah, it's also a big deal. 14 degrees that it was pretty much the max you can go to before you start getting some stall and some weird things happening. Really? So it was a really aggressive angle of attack. Now we're getting down to less of an angle. And I had a lot of conversation with Chris Osetic, who runs the A2 wind tunnel down south, and he's the DJ Schulich's car owner. So he has a lot of knowledge about that, and so it's definitely going to be a big change for sure.
Okay, so how much as far as the racing is concerned? Because I talked to enough of you guys to know that you said the cars don't wiggle as much. Like you said, you could just get out front and hide. Are those days over?
I don't know if it's going to be over. Time will tell with this in the first practice. I'm kind of excited to get out and see what it does. You definitely had a huge advantage when you're out in front in any type of aero racing, which these are aero cars. The guy that's out in front or girl that's out in front is going to have a big advantage with it because you're in clean air. So the less you can have aero and downforce and everything, the less of a big deal that's going to be. You're going to be able to get behind somebody and not get air taken off your wing and everything like that. It's not going to be and that was part of the reason for the wing angle change.
That was the next place I was going, because I know that you can't just go running up on somebody and go right up their back bumper, because then you lose the air. Does that make that better or worse?
Having the wicker change is going to be a little interesting with that, because that takes some of the controlled part of the wing away, but the lower angle of attack, I think, will allow us to do that. The less you go with that and the less you're dependent on that angle of attack, the more stable the car should be in traffic. So that was kind of the idea. Whether this was enough to really make a huge difference, we'll see. It's hard to tell, but it's definitely going to be a difference. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, because you have to be aware of that when you're in the car, too. You almost have to predict where they're going to go and make sure that you're not directly behind them.
Yeah, and for sure this year, too, it's going to be different, because your marks of how deep you can drive it in, where you can get on the gas skin is going to be different, because you're definitely going to lose some, form of downforce there. So
backing those marks up a little bit.
Should be, yeah. Yep.
So that's obviously the big goal for our first practice session, is see where those marks are, right?
Exactly.
And how hard we can push it.
Yep, it'll be a big deal for trying to who can figure that out the fastest will be winning.
Okay, only got about a minute and a half left. So how optimistic are you to A, win races, and B, maybe have a shot at a championship?
I'm very optimistic this year. I think I think my head is wrapped around it better this year than it has been in the past, hopefully. And like I said, that's we have to prove that and see still. I think we have a pretty clear-cut plan. I'm very happy with the things we've done to the car and everything there with it. So I'm pretty confident in what we've done, but now we've got to go out and prove it. And I'll know very quickly if we're in the right boat. And there's always something I'm sure we got to work on and improve it, but we'll get there.
Well, there always is. It's a race car. So
exactly.
It never just unloads perfectly and stays that way.
Unfortunately, right.
So obviously that first practice, you're going to go the 24th, the day before then, or no?
We're probably going to practice during the week. We have a rental together with some other cars right now, so kind of keeps it a little bit low key and a little more controlled. So I like it that way, just keep it calm.
Yeah, and then nobody else knows your lap times and stuff like that too. Because this is almost like playing poker to some degree, isn't it?
Yeah.
You want to hide your hand if you can, right?
That's right.
Make sure to subscribe, guys. Turn on the notification. Like we said, the 25th is the season opener. There will be some cars there that Friday, and if you're hanging around in Oswego, you'll hear those other sessions. You probably won't be able to see the times as they come through. And of course, remember the ISMA opener is the following weekend on June 1st. Good to see you as always. I appreciate you making time. I hope you have a great season.
Appreciate you being here. Thank you.